Well, welcome everybody. I see you all jumping on now. So welcome to our Tactical Tuesday. This is the first one of 2025. So welcome to all of you for joining us. And I hope the last couple of weeks you enjoyed. You got some time off, maybe spent some time with family, whatever the case might be. Maybe vacationed a little, traveled a little, whatever you did. I hope that it was good. It's been 3 weeks since we've done a Tactical Tuesday. So I managed to get a little bit of time off and enjoyed that. I ended up going to what did I do? Well, I went and went snow biking for a few days out in Golden, BC. For those of you that don't know, snow biking is where you take a dirt bike and you put a ski on the front and you have like a snowmobile track on the back and you go through the mountains in deep powder and snow, and it's a lot of fun. I was in a hockey tournament as well. We came in second place, so that was a lot of fun. And yeah, had a great time over the last couple of weeks. So hopefully you guys did too. As you come on, say hello in the chat. Great to see you guys. George and Joanne from Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. Jules from Spruce Grove. Great to see you guys. Just say hello. Let us know where you're from. I see as people are joining our Tactical Tuesday tonight. So tonight, guys, is a topic that um, I was thinking about. What do we start the year off with? And kind of everything that you see all over the place and posts that you're seeing and in social media we see it all the time is people maybe start making new goals. What am I going to accomplish in 2025? Is this year going to be different than it was last year? And some people do reach those goals, which is fantastic, but a lot of people tend to make goals and not reach them, maybe start to fall off later on in January, whether that's maybe weight loss goals or whether that's financial goals, or maybe you want to do something new or learn something new. And we start off with a lot of motivation at the beginning of the year, and then it tends to tail off. And so I wanted to do a little research, and I've done this over the last week or so, especially the last few days, is what is the difference between those who reach their goals and those who just set them? And how could we be different? What can we do in our lives? What is some practical, small little changes that we can do to make sure that we do end up reaching our goals? Okay, so that's kind of what we're going to talk about tonight. I'm going to share with you a TED talk that I found incredibly enlightening. A lot of really good information. And the beauty of it is it's small, practical things. I'm just going to read to you briefly some of the comments of people that have watched this. This is some of the things they've said. I've listened to this talk so many times I've lost count. Since finding this video, my life hasn't been the same. In fact, everything has changed for me. That's what one person said. Another person said, he injected me with a motivation generator instead of a shot of motivation. How many times do we get all motivated, guys, and then that motivation falls off, right? But if we can have it generate itself, that's awesome. Another person said, this might just be the one that changes it all for me. Another person said, finally, somebody who's really achieved something, teaching how to achieve something. Another person said, I feel smarter after pretty much every TED Talk, but this one fundamentally changed me. These are some of the comments that people have made regarding what we're going to watch tonight, and I'm going to share here with you guys. And as we go through it, feel free to comment. Feel free to use the reaction button here in Zoom. Let us know what you think. I see a thumbs up coming right now, so that's awesome. I think that's something that's relatively new to Zoom, so let's use it, guys. Good to see Tyson from Vancouver, Andrea from Oshawa, and Urshad. Good to see you, Urshad. So we have people from all across the country. So that is awesome. And I see a whole bunch of you on here that haven't commented yet as well. So feel free to just throw your name into the chat. That would be great. Okay, guys, so let's get started. This can be found on YouTube, so you can refer to this at any time if you want. If you want to watch it over and over again, it's entitled How to Achieve Your Most Ambitious Goals. And you're going to be really surprised at some of the things that this person has achieved, and some of the goals that they set and how they actually achieved them in a short period of time. And so if that is something you're wanting to do, you're wanting to actually achieve those goals of 2025, this is a really good topic. So it's about 17 minutes long. We're going to watch it together. Share your comments in the chat. And then afterwards, what we're going to do is get your comments and we're going to talk about it a little bit. and see how we could relate these steps to real estate investing in particular, or to maybe your business goals. How can we use the concepts in here and relate it to real estate? Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. We're going to get started here, and let's get going.
By a show of hands, how many of you believe you could replicate this image of Brad Pitt with just a pencil and piece of paper? Well, I'm going to show you how to do this. And in so doing, I'm going to give you the skill necessary to become a world-class artist. And it shouldn't take more than about 15 seconds. But before I do that, how many of you believe you could replicate this image of a solid gray square? Every one of us. And if you can make one gray square, you can make 2, 3, 9. Truth of the matter is, if you could make just one gray square, it'd be very difficult to argue that you couldn't make every gray square necessary to replicate the image in its entirety. And there you have it. I've just given you the skill necessary to become a world-class artist. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's not real art. Certainly wouldn't make me a world-class artist. So let me introduce you to Chuck Close. He's one of the highest earning artists in the entire world for decades, and he creates his art using this exact technique. You see, what stands between us and achieving even our most ambitious dreams has far less to do with possessing some magical skill or talent, and far more to do with how we approach problems and make decisions to solve them. And because of the continuous and compounding nature of all those millions of decisions that we face on a regular basis, even a marginal improvement in our process can have a huge impact on our end results. And I'll prove this to you by taking a look at the career of Novak Djokovic. Back in 2004, when he first became a professional tennis player, he was ranked 680th in the world. It wasn't until the end of his third year that he jumped up to be ranked third in the world. He went from making $250,000 a year to $5 million a year in prize money alone, and of course he did this by winning more matches. In 2011, he became the #1 ranked men's tennis player in the world, started earning an average of $14 million a year in prize money alone, and winning a dominating 90% of his matches. Now here's what's really interesting about all of these very impressive statistics. Novak doesn't control any of them. What he does control are all the tiny little decisions that he needs to make correctly along the way in order to move the probability in favor of him achieving these types of results. And we can quantify and track his progress in this area by taking a look at the percentage of points that he wins. Because in tennis, the typical point involves 1 to maybe 3 decisions. I like to refer to this as his decision success rate. So back when he was winning about 49% of the matches he was playing, he was winning about 49% of the points he played. Then to jump up, become #3 in the world, and actually earn $5 million a year for swinging a racket, he had to improve his decision success rate to just 52%. Then to become not just #1, but maybe one of the greatest players to ever play the game, he had to improve his decision success rate to just 55%. Now, I keep using this word just. I don't want to imply this is easy to do. Clearly it's not. But the type of marginal improvements that I'm talking about are easily achievable by every single one of us in this room. And I'll show you what I mean. From kindergarten all the way through to my high school graduation, yes, that's high school graduation for me, every one of my report cards basically said the same thing. Stephen's a very bright young boy. If only he would just settle down and focus. What they didn't realize was I wanted that even more than they wanted it for me. I just couldn't. And so from kindergarten straight through the second year of college, I was a really consistent C minus student. But then going into my junior year, I'd had enough. I thought, I want to make a change. I'm going to make a marginal adjustment. And I'm going to stop being a spectator in my decision-making and start becoming an active participant. And so that year, instead of pretending again that I would suddenly be able to settle down and focus on things for more than 5 or 10 minutes at a time, I decided to assume I wouldn't. And so if I wanted to achieve the type of outcome that I desired, doing well in school, I was going to actually have to change my approach. And so I made a marginal adjustment. If I would get an assignment, let's say read 5 chapters in a book, I wouldn't think of it as 5 chapters. I wouldn't even think of it as 1 chapter. I would break it down into these tasks that I could achieve that would require me to focus for just 5 or 10 minutes at a time. So maybe 3 or 4 paragraphs, that's it. I would do that. When I was done with those 5 or 10 minutes, I would get up. I'd go shoot some hoops, do a little drawing, maybe play video games for a few minutes. And then I'd come back. Not necessarily to the same assignment, not even necessarily to the same subject, but just to another task that required just 5 to 10 minutes of my attention. From that point forward, all the way through to graduation, I was a straight A student. Dean's List, President's Honor Roll, every semester. I then went on to one of the top graduate programs in the world for finance and economics. Same approach, same results. So then I graduate, I start my career, and I'm thinking, this worked really well for me. You know, you take these big concepts, these complex ideas, these big assignments, you break them down to much more manageable tasks. And then along the way, you make a marginal improvement to the process, you nudge the odds of success in your favor. I'm going to try and do this in my career. So I did. I started out as an exotic derivatives trader at Credit Suisse. It then led me to be global head of currency option trading for Bank of America, global head of emerging markets for AIG International. It helped me deliver top-tier returns as a global macro hedge fund manager for 12 years, and to become founder and CIO of 2 award-winning hedge funds. So it gets to 2001, and I'm thinking, this whole idea, it worked really well in school, it's been serving me well as a professional. Why aren't I applying this in my personal life? Like to all those big, ambitious goals I have for myself. So one day, I'm walking to work, and at the time, my commute was a walk from one end of Hyde Park to the other in London. It took me about 45 minutes each way. Hour and a half a day, 7.5 hours a week, 30 hours a month, 360 hours a year when I was awake, aware, and basically wasting time listening to music on my iPod. So on my way home from work that day, I stopped at the store. I picked up the first 33 CDs in the Pimsleur German language program, ripped them and put them onto my iPod. But I didn't stop there. Because the truth of the matter is, I'm an undisciplined person. And I knew that at some point, I'd switch away from the language and go back to the music. So I removed that temptation by removing all of the music. It left me with just one option: listen to the language tapes. So 10 months later, I'd listened to all 99 CDs in the German language program, listened to each one 3 times each. I then went to Berlin for a 16-day intensive German course. When I was done, I invited my wife and kids to meet me. We walked around the city. I spoke German to the Germans. They spoke German back to me. My kids were amazed. I mean, I couldn't close their jaws. But you and I, we know there's actually nothing amazing about what I just done. I made this marginal adjustment to my daily routine, this marginal adjustment to my process. Und jetzt, ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch. And now I can speak some German. And so in that moment, I'm thinking, it's not supposed to be this easy for a guy like me, an old guy, to learn a new language. You're supposed to have to do that when you're a kid. And yet here I had done it, this marginal adjustment. So what other big, ambitious goals I've been holding on to, putting off until retirement, that I could potentially achieve if I just made a marginal adjustment to my routine? So I started doing them. I earned my auto racing license. I learned how to fly a helicopter, did rock climbing, skydiving, and learned how to fly planes aerobatically. Well, if you're like me, back in 2007, you might have the same goal I had. I was just moving back from London. I was about 25 pounds overweight and out of shape, and I wanted to rectify that. So I could go the typical route. You know, I could write a check to a gym I'd never go to, or I could swear to myself that I will never again eat those foods that I love but are doing all the damage. And I knew that going that route rarely results in the outcome you desire. So I decided to become an active participant. And I thought about the habits and passions that I've developed over the course of my life, and I thought, can I make just a marginal adjustment to them? so that they work in my favor as opposed to against me. And so I did. I've got this habit where I've been walking an hour and a half a day for the last 7 years, and I've got this passion for being in the outdoors. And so that year, I didn't actually set the New Year's resolution to lose 25 pounds. I set a resolution to hike all 33 trails in the front country of Santa Barbara's mountains. And I'd never been on a hike before in my life. But the truth of the matter is, it's not about the 33 trails. You have to break this big, ambitious goal down into these more manageable decisions, the types of decisions that need to be made correctly along the way in order to improve the odds of achieving the type of outcome you desire. It's not about even one trail. It's about those tiny little decisions, like when you're sitting at your desk, putting in just a little extra time at the end of a day, or you're lying on your couch and you're clicking through the channels on your remote control or scrolling through your Facebook feed, and in that moment, you make the decision to put it down. You go put on your hiking clothes. You go walk outside your front door and you shut it behind you. You walk to your car, you get in your car, and you drive to the trailhead. You get out of the car at the trailhead and you take one step. You take 2 steps, 3 steps. Every one of those steps that I've just described is a tiny little decision that needs to be made correctly along the way in order to achieve the ultimate outcome. Now, when I say I want to hike 33 trails in the front country, people think about the decisions at the top of the mountain. That's not what it's about. Because if you don't make the right decision when you're on the couch, there is no decision that occurs at the top of the mountain. So by the end of the year, I had hiked all 33 trails in the front country. I did them a couple of times each. I even did a few in the back country. I lost the 25 pounds, and I capped the year off by doing the hardest half marathon in the world, the Pier to Peak. In 2009, I got really ambitious. Ambitious for a guy who still to this day cannot settle down and focus on anything for more than 5 or 10 minutes at a time, and that was to read 50 books. But again, it's not about reading 50 books. It's not even about reading one book. It's not about reading a chapter, a paragraph, a sentence. It's about that decision when you're sitting at your desk at the end of the day, or when you're lying on the couch, or flicking through your Facebook feed, and you put down the phone. You pick up a book and you read one word. If you read one word, you'll read 2 words, 3 words. You'll read a sentence, a paragraph, a page, a chapter, a book. You'll read 10 books, 30 books, 50 books. In 2012, I got really ambitious. I set 24 New Year's resolutions. 12 of them were what I call giving resolutions, where I did 12 charitable things that didn't involve writing a check. But it's not without its failures. I tried to donate blood and they rejected me because I'd lived in the UK. I tried to donate my sperm, they rejected me because I was too old. I tried to donate my hair and it turns out nobody wants gray hair. So here I was trying to do something to make myself feel good, and it was having the opposite effect. So anyway, I've also had these 12 learning resolutions to learn 12 new skills. And when I was done with unicycling, parkour, slacklining, jumping stilts, and drumming, my wife suggested I learn how to knit. And I'll be honest, I wasn't all that passionate about knitting. But one day I'm sitting under this 40-foot tall eucalyptus tree that's 2.6 miles up the Cold Spring Trail in Santa Barbara, and I'm thinking, that tree would look really cool if it were covered in yarn. And so I went home and I Googled this, and it turns out this is a thing people do. It's called yarn bombing. You wrap these public structures with yarn. And the 2nd annual International Yarn Bombing Day was just 82 days away. So for the next 82 days, no matter where I was, if I was in a board meeting, on the trading floor, in an airplane, or in the hospital, I was knitting, 1 stitch at a time. And 82 days later, I had done my first ever yarn bomb. And the response to it blew me away. So I kept going with bigger, more ambitious projects that required more engineering skills. And in 2014, I set the goal to wrap 6 massive boulders in Los Padres National Forest at the top of the mountains. But if I was going to pull this off, I'd need help. So at this point, I had a few thousand followers on social media as the yarn bomber. And I started getting packages, lots of packages. 388 contributors from 36 countries in all 50 states. In the end, I didn't wrap one massive boulder, I wrapped 18. So I kept going with bigger, more ambitious projects that would require me to work with new materials like fiberglass and wood and metals, which culminates in a project that is currently at TMC here in Tucson, where I wrap the Children's Hospital. Along the way, I stopped knitting. I never really liked it. But I like crocheting. So I started making these 7-inch granny squares, because that's the standard granny square. And I thought along the way, why am I stopping at 7 inches? I need big stuff. So I started making bigger granny squares. And one day I come home from a business trip and I've got this really large granny. And I went to the website of Guinness. I was curious, what's the world's largest granny square? And it turns out there's no category for it. So I applied. And they rejected me. So I appealed, and they rejected me. I appealed again, and they said, fine. If you make it 10 meters by 10 meters, we'll create a new category, and you will be a Guinness World Record holder. So for the next 2 years, 7 months, 17 days, 1 stitch at a time, I finally reached more than 500,000 stitches, incorporated more than 30 miles of yarn, and I am now the official Guinness World Record holder for the largest crocheted granny square. Along the way, I've garnered an awful lot of attention for my escapades. I've been featured in Newsweek magazine, Art News, which is kind of the Bible for artists. But what I want you to realize when you hear these things, I'm still that C- student. I'm still that kid who can't settle down or focus for more than 5 or 10 minutes at a time, and I remain a guy who possesses no special gift of talent or skill. All I do is take really big, ambitious projects that people seem to marvel at, break them down to their simplest form, and then just make marginal improvements along the way to improve my odds of achieving them. And so the whole reason I'm giving this talk is I'm hoping to inspire several of you to pull some of those ambitious dreams that you have for yourself off the bookshelf and start pursuing them by making that marginal adjustment to your routine. Thank you.
All right, guys, what do you think of that? I thought that was a great lesson. There's a lot of lessons actually that we can pull from what he was saying that we can apply. All of us can apply, whether it's in our personal life or in our business life or in our real estate investing business. If we do some of the suggestions that he was talking about, it's going to make a massive, massive difference. And really, that's the difference between setting a goal and reaching it, or setting a goal and not reaching it. It's making those marginal changes. And so we're going to talk about this for a few minutes. Some of the things maybe that stuck out to you, throw it into the chat. Let me know what did you get from that? What are some of the highlights for you that that you would take from that and maybe start to change in the way you're doing things? Is there anything that stuck out? So I'm just gonna have a look at the chat here. Yes, wow is correct, Janie, absolutely. Kept me focused for entire session. Great speaker with real life examples, Urshad. Yes, break down a project into bite-sized pieces, says Jewel. What else did you guys find from that? I'm going to kind of go through some of the things that stuck out to me and some of the things that we can put into practice when it comes to our real estate investing career, our real estate business. Whatever we are here for. That's what we're here for, right? Okay, so first question I have for you, and he said this multiple times throughout that talk, was he somebody that was super talented and skilled? Do you have to be somebody that is super talented, or have a really amazing skill in order to achieve something. Think of some of the things that he was able to achieve. Did he have the talent and the skill? What did he say? Um, just your average person, says Joe. Yes. He's very driven, says George. Tenacity. Janie says, change my routine and my habits. Absolutely. These are some of the highlights that you guys got from that. That's awesome. And what I love from it is that, some of us, we look at some of the things that we want to do, and let's just focus for a second on real estate investment. Maybe we want to accomplish buying an apartment building. Maybe it's buying a townhouse complex. Maybe it's buying a campground. Maybe it's buying a mobile home park. Maybe it's buying a single family home or a suited house. It doesn't matter what our goals are or how lofty they are. Um, Maybe we have goals of being a Guinness World Record holder. Maybe we have goals of flying and playing acrobatically or flying a helicopter. It doesn't matter what the goals are. We don't necessarily have to have the skill or the talent at this moment, but we have to break down those goals into small tasks. That was one of the first things that he said. Break down the big goals into small tasks. That's number one. And then make marginal improvements upon those tasks. That's kind of the key to it, right? Always looking, remember the tennis player in that video? Uh, yeah, Everett says, I learned that yarn bombing is a thing. Yeah, I never knew about it either. Who would have thought, hey? And just think of all that yarn that's sitting out there in the, I find it kind of strange, but whatever. Yes, Janie, small task, don't give up. So initially take a big goal. Maybe our goal is to buy 50 units. Okay, that might be a big goal. Well, how can we break that down into small tasks? What do we need to do to reach that goal? Well, number one, we have to have a relationship with a realtor, have a relationship with a mortgage broker. Those are two tasks that we need to do. So let's break that down. In order to maybe have a relationship with a realtor, what do we need to do? We have to have conversations with 2 or 3 different realtors in the market we're looking for. So could we set some appointments? Could that be a small task that kind of gets us to the next step of having an appointment with a realtor? Then the next step might be analyzing some properties that come our way. Then the next step might be being in touch with our mortgage broker and getting all the documents together. These are all small tasks that we need to break it down in order to finally get to the point where we're going to end up buying that apartment building, right? Because if we go into it thinking, I'm just going to buy this apartment building, we're going to see 150 different tasks in front of us. We're going to get overwhelmed. And a lot of times what happens is we start veering off into something that's a little bit more simple. But if we break it down into small tasks, and so for maybe our first task when it comes to being a real estate investor is writing down what many of these small tasks are and starting to accomplish them. Remember when he was talking about his commute? He would walk 45 minutes each way. I think that was his commute in school. And so during that time period, he would normally listen to music for 45 minutes each way, which is something that probably most people do. Maybe our commute is driving. Maybe it's not walking. Maybe we're on public transit. It doesn't matter. But it takes 15 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe an hour is our commute. What did he do to change the time he was spending? Remember, he said, it's time I was awake. I was conscious. My brain was thinking. And he wasn't using it to any advantage. He was just listening to music. So that's where he learned a language within a year, within 10 months. And then he made a trip to Germany, spent a couple of weeks there, and was able to speak and converse in a completely new language a year later. Why? Because he made one marginal change in his regular routine. And that's kind of what Janie, you were saying here, change your routine and your habits. So maybe start thinking about what are some of the things, guys, that you spend a lot of time on. I'm going to share something with you. A lot of time I spend on my phone. There's 3 or 4 games that I like to play when I'm just sitting around. I got some time to kill. Okay. One of the games I play is this game. It's called Backgammon. For some reason, I like it. I don't know. Anyway, it keeps track of how many games you play. And the other day I was sitting there showing this game to my mom actually. And I said, Leah, this is a game that I play a lot. And I looked and it said I had played, I joined in 2017. So I've been playing it for, I don't know, what is that, 8 years now. And I had played almost 7,000 games because it keeps track of how many games you play. And I would say on average, each game is somewhere, I'm going to say 7, 8 minutes long, maybe up to 10 minutes. But let's say if we were to average at 7 minutes a game times 7,000 games, let's just do that. 7,000 times 7 minutes, 49,000 minutes divided by 60. That's 816 hours I have spent. Now divide that by 24 hours, 34 days of my life, 24 hours a day I have spent playing this game. Is that a good use of my time? I think everyone that's listening would agree that it's not a good use of my time. And there's other games that I play. So think about your life, guys. What are some things that you do? Do you go on Facebook and start scrolling, looking at Facebook Reels or Facebook posts, or do you go on to other social media and just start looking at things that come up into your feed? Would you say that is quality time that is improving you as a person? Now, there's value in some of these things, absolutely. I'm not saying we need to quit them 100%, but are there things we can do to maybe examine our own lives, things that you're spending time on that we might not realize, even if it's 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, that we could better use that time instead of watching TV or scrolling on our phone or doing things that are really unproductive. So start thinking about the things that you spend time on. And could we direct that towards, now think about it. If I had spent 800 hours over the last 7 years on something productive, do you think I could have learned another language? Probably. Do you think maybe my business would be farther ahead? I may own some more property? Probably. And we all need recreation. We all need to spend time doing stuff, right? But when we start to examine some of the time that we're spending doing things that are not getting us anywhere forward, that's something that maybe all of us could probably have a look at. And so remember, some of the keys that we're getting from this. Number one, take a big concept, a big plan, a big goal. Okay, think of 2025. Where do you want to be a year from now? And break it down into small tasks. What do I have to do to accomplish that? And how much time do you think you could set aside each day to get you closer to completing those small tasks? Okay. So what could you put 5 minutes aside, 10 minutes aside, 20 minutes aside each day, and make it fun? Remember when it came to reading a book, he said, don't worry about reading a chapter. Don't think about reading the whole book, not even a paragraph or not even a sentence. Make it your goal to read one word. And what happens when you read one word? You're going to read two, you're going to read three, you're going to read four. Next thing you know, you have read a paragraph or you've read a page and you've progressed on that goal. So break it down into minute tasks and get started and actually move forward to accomplishing some of the goals that you might have. I'm just going to look at the chat again here. James, if you've never ran a marathon, 99% of people can't just go out and run 42 kilometers at a time. But if you start running 1 kilometer, the next time run 2, etc. Exactly, George. It's breaking it down into those small tasks. And it's like the word, right? Read one word, and then you read 2, and then 3, and then a paragraph. Yeah, we're all guilty of that, George. I could have flown a helicopter. Exactly, Jules. That would be amazing. Yes, small tasks for sure. So some other highlights that I wanted to share, guys, is one other thing that, remember he mentioned during when he was learning that language, when he was learning German, he was spending the time on his commute, which was wasted time anyways. He put all those CDs onto his iPod, so that's dating himself a little bit there. But what else? What was the next step that he did in that process? Because he knew he would fall back into listening music again, he removed all the music from his iPod. Okay. So if you feel like you're going to fall back into a bad habit, then get rid of whatever might lead you to that. That was a good example of removing the music from his iPad. Oh, one other thing too that I thought was really interesting is that while he was learning German, was he at the same time hiking in the front country in the Santa Barbara Mountains and hiking in the backcountry? Did you notice that once he set a goal to do something, that was his focus? He had one goal. He wasn't doing 10, 15 different goals all at the same time. So maybe that's something that we can think about too, is that how many goals do we have set? Let's set one goal, figure out the tasks to accomplish that, start doing those small tasks and make marginal adjustments along the way and complete that goal. And then maybe we can move on to another one. And that's how he's been able to accomplish so many different things, is by focusing on one goal at a time. And remember, guys, if you're the type of person that can't focus, can't settle down, maybe you don't have a special talent or a special skill, well, that was the case of the example that we watched tonight as well. So you don't need to have those things to be successful to accomplish your goals. So that's what I wanted to share tonight, guys. We are entering a really unique year of 2025. And a lot of us start a new year with new ambitions. We start a year maybe with a resolution of some sort, or we start a year with new goals. Where do we want to be a year from now? What I want you guys to do is to think about this and maybe watch it over and over again. I'm going to, the title of the YouTube TED Talk was How to Achieve Your Most Ambitious Goals. And the person that was speaking, his name is Stephen Dunier, Duneier. And it was from a TEDx in Tucson. So hopefully that helps you. We can probably somehow share the link for that here in the chat. And I will just, maybe if somebody watching here can find that and just share the link, that would be awesome. So yes, a few things that we're going to end this off with, guys. Number one, figure out what is distracting you. Figure out where you're spending a lot of wasted time. Number two, set a lofty, ambitious goal. Number three, in order to achieve that goal, figure out what small tasks you need to accomplish. Start accomplishing those tasks. Number four. And number five, make marginal improvements along the way. Again, getting back to that tennis player, did you notice he was at 49% with his shot making? And he was winning 49% of the matches. And then he went to 52% of his shot making. He only improved it by 3%. That's not a whole lot in the whole scheme of things. And he started winning 79% of his matches. And then when he improved it to 55, another 3%, he was winning 90% of his matches, became number one in the world. So marginal improvements, just little tweaks, guys. That's all we're talking about here that you can do in areas that you're spending time, you're awake anyways. Start doing that and your real estate investing business could explode. Guys, we're going to share with you next week a tool that is absolutely free that we have put together for you. And it will help you to be able to learn more about real estate investment. Every single topic that we've talked about over the last 4 years on our Tactical Tuesdays, we're putting that's all put together, and we're going to be offering that to all of our Fearless members for absolutely free in our app. So if you don't have it yet, guys, just go to your Google Play Store, go to Apple, you can download our app, it's free, and the content inside there will be free. We're going to be throwing all of our Fearless live streams into there, our Tactical Tuesdays, so you can have access to them. So if you are on that commute, if you are walking the dog, if you are spending time doing things and you want to learn more about real estate investing, that is what we're offering for you. Okay, so we're going to share a link to that and everything next week. All right, guys. Yes, thanks, Jules, for sharing that. Just search for Investor Life in your app store and you will find our app. You can download it, and there you go. Great way to start. Break down what you want to accomplish step by step. That's right, George. Thanks for sharing that link, Jules. Appreciate that. So you guys have it there. If you want to watch that again, share it with somebody else that you think could benefit from it, or you can share this Tactical Tuesday as well. This is going to be posted in our Fearless group tomorrow. Thanks for joining us, guys. We appreciate having you on here. Great to see your comments and the little reaction buttons that are coming up. I love that as well. And for our Ignited members, there they go. I love it. We're going to see you over in our laser session. Ermel is hosting our multifamily laser session tonight. And so we'll see you over there at the top of the hour. Thanks for joining us. See you next week, guys. Take care.